Well, good evening. This is Gary Green from North Carolina, and I thank you for participating in our Patriot Records Committee subcommittee meeting. A couple of folks I need to thank for being on board. Mike Scroggins, thank you for your long day and coming to be a part of Patriot Records Committee tonight. Bob Cohen is here and will leave in a couple minutes on to the next meeting. Our host is Tony Vetz, the Registrar General, and he's set this up so that we don't get people kicked off after we get over the 100 mark this time. So hopefully everybody gets a chance to get in. I'm going to ask you to mute yourself if you're not muted at this moment, and then that way we can keep the phones from ringing and the dogs from barking for the rest of us. I need to have you unmute yourself and tell me you're here. I want to make attendance for the Patriot Records Committee. Eric Alford, are you on?
Yes, sir, I am.
Thank you. Troy Bailey, are you on? Bruce Bowman, are you on? Dennis Boyer?
Oh, that was no one.
Charles Danman? Jim Engler?
I'm here.
Guy Higgins?
I'm trying to figure out if the salmon is better than.
Jim Maples?
I'm here, Gary.
Thank you, Jim. Michael Merriman?
I'm here, Gary.
Thank you. David Perkins?
I'm here, Gary.
Thank you. Wayne Rouse? Dr. Sharp? Bill Sharp? Colonel Shaw? Ethan Stewart? Paul Walden?
I'm here.
Thank you. Okay, and those of you who are on the records committee that I didn't call, I checked you off as you came in. Going to ask once more to go back to mute, and then we will continue on with the presentation. Our goal today is to go through the Patriot Research System. I have some statistics I'd like to share. Eric Kruger is going to demonstrate or give you some feedback on our flagging capabilities in the PRS. We have a plan for we need to have a plan for what we're going to do for the 1970 and 1984 applications, and then look forward to what we're going to do for the 1889 to 1970 records. Jamie Callender is going to give us some update on how to do DAR ancestor search, find a grave connections, and discussion about cemeteries and coordinates. We're finding a lot of data that we need to update. Patriot Biographies, I'm going to ask Michael Merriman to expand on what we have for statistics. And if Jeff Baggett is on, we'll ask him to talk a little bit about any concerns on the Patriot grave marking medals or compatriot grave marking. And then we're going to open this up to Zoom and questions, but I need you to ask your questions on chat, and I will try to moderate and see if we can get some of those questions answered. This is these are the goals that we set for our Patriot Research System on the 15th of July. And finding out that we are part of the Strategic Priority Historic Program, commemorate people and events of the American Revolution, preserve records of the American Revolution, and support research of the American Revolution. That is the whole process for the research system, and it's why the Patriot Records Committee is set to work on these. We tried to come up with goals that would be somewhat attainable, On the 15th of July, we set the goals, the 5 goals. The first one, we had 100% in December, and then Eric found some more Patriots. In fact, Eric found 20,000 Patriots in the last 20,000 applications. If you look at number 3 as our goal, we looked to try to get 5,000 of the older applications, and Eric has completed the 1971 to 1984 records and put them in the PRS. We've increased our percentage of lineages transcribed. Our goal was 85% by the end of June. We're at 86 and we're climbing. Jumping to the Patriot Biographies, our goal was to get 200 biographies, new biographies in. We have 206 at this point, and I expect to expand that by June. And we want to increase the number of Patriot graves we marked to 3,800. We have identified 3,951, and this is as of the 20th of July. Some interesting statistics in my mind. If you look at this and look at the percentages on the right, you may have to move your visual to, or your list of attendees to look at it, but look at that, those numbers on the right. 95% of all records, the current records, 1998 up to the current, are completed. They're already in the PRS. So we have done a great job, and I want to applaud you and thank every one of the volunteers that are on here and everyone you know for the work they've done. We've also done 94% of the records from 85 to 98. The 71 to 85, we're down at 47, 48%. And that's because they just got put in within a month, and we are rolling on those. So don't take that as a discouraging percentage. It's just the beginning. And then 1889 to 1970, these have been in a while. Those are pretty high, and then we've got some uncategorized. But in general, the 86.6% is pretty impressive, saying that we've done our work. So thank you very much for your participation. This is kind of the Eric Kruger slide, if you will. This is 37 of 37 canisters, if you will, about 700 to 800 applications per film canister. Is pretty impressive. That's the 20,000 records that Eric has put in the last 6 months. We still have the older records. We're trying to figure out how important those are to us in the PRS, but they're out there. We've got probably another 430 to go. But those are only 200 applications per canister. So other than the fact that Eric has to work hard to click them out, it's pretty good. Okay, this is kind of the gee whiz wow. If you look at the dates, well, let's look on the left side. Number of page views, million page views, and then it goes to 2 million, 3 million, 4 million. We're up to 8,454,000. Yeah. So look at the timing, how many days it took to get to each one of those levels. And you'll see that we've had quite a bit of activity within the PRS. This is, you can see the big splurge was right in the middle of COVID. So we had a lot of folks sitting at home saying, I haven't got much else to do. I'm going to get on and do some work on a PRS. But it's not all the volunteers. We've got lots of people looking at this because it's become a tool that we can use in the SAR. And you're the ones who made that happen. This slide's kind of a neat slide in my mind. This is Eric's generation of how the page views look over time. And the far left is January 2018, and the far right is January 2022. You can see we've got a fairly steady pace, except for when we did a lot of work during the COVID crisis. And it's pretty impressive that we're sustaining the number of record views or views on the PRS. So these are highlights, and I think Eric brought these out. The volunteers have completed 94.8% of the records from 1985 to the current. We're working on the newly added records. It was kind of a blow to the stomach when they came in, because all of a sudden that 100% went down really fast. But we're picking it back up, and you guys are doing your job. Thank you. The records from 71 to 85 have been totally digitized. 28,000 records have been added. So we're pumping along, and this is a shout out to Tim Ward. You have to look at Ohio and see that he's been very busy in Ohio. They are 100% all the way across, and thank you, Tim, for your work on that. Genealogy flags. I'm going to ask Eric to unmute and talk to us a little bit about what we're doing with the genealogy flags.
Sure, so I can talk to that. I actually got a couple slides I'll share as well. I'll sort of hijack your meeting for a minute.
Okay.
But we could use that slide. I mean, the general concept is, you know, we've been working with the genealogy staff, the genealogy committee, the genealogist general around the flags as they flag issues, you know, on various applications. The way genealogist General Fish likes to describe it is that he likes to refer to these as a sort of a difference of opinion among genealogists. And that could be, you know, data wasn't available at one point in time that suddenly is, data was interpreted differently, something was missed, you know, it could be all sorts of reasons. So flagging something, I would urge caution, flagging something is not indicative of a negative mark to the applicant. You know, the applicant, what they did worked with, and what they submitted was approved. So, you know, they did the right things, but, you know, new data, you know, as we all know, new data becomes available, new things get digitized, new people find, you know, more research. So the concept behind the flagging is that you have the ability to flag a specific application or a set of applications among the same problem and associate that to a specific Patriot record. Meaning that, you know, if you had 3 applications that were all kind of tied together, and so let's say the service was incorrect or deemed invalid or inappropriate, you know, we could flag all 3 of them simultaneously with the same flag, and also, you know, note that to the Patriot, you know, for future applicants have to do the same kinds of things. So I'll share. Let's see, which desktop? This desktop. So you should be able to. Okay, so yep. So this is an example off of the PRS of what we can do, and actually what we're doing today. Genealogy in general has asked us for at this point in time that all flags are going through him and through his process. So this is not something the volunteers, you guys are entering in the system, and really not something I'm entering in the system. It's really designed to enable them to control the genealogy flagging. So they're going to get this an option right up here for adding flags. And if there is a flag on the system, you'll see, you know, a section right through here where we label it as a genealogy notation, you know, and there's a problem, and whatever the genealogy statement is for that problem, you'll see there's an additional tab added for detail for their issue. And if you're tagging applications, you'll see the application down there, you know, in short form, you know, as to what it is. So this one refers to the Patriot. This one refers to the application. So if I move forward a minute here, let's go. Sorry. Okay, so in the notations tab, you know, you couldn't see. Now you get the detail. You know, same verbiage that was on the main page. Whether you make that visible to the Patriot or not, you know, so we have the ability to either flag it at the Patriot level or not. So that's really what that's controlling. what the flag is, the short form of that flag, which member numbers are associated, and then ultimately who did it in any documentation file associated with that flag, out on our system. And overall, whether the flag is enabled or disabled in the system as a whole. One concept here is we're not deleting any flags. So if somebody remediates a flag, we can turn that from enable to disable. It goes away, in terms of the viewability from the user. But so from a historical perspective, something was flagged and then it was resolved. So that's what that one looks like.
Eric,
Yes.
as a volunteer, we would not be doing this though, correct?
This is not something at this point the volunteers are doing. At this point, genealogy is asked to maintain control of this. I've had some discussions, I'm having some ongoing discussions about some of the historical records and what does that mean and what do we do there. The initial take from them was we don't want to do anything, just ignore it. My take is, hey, look, somebody notated them for a reason. My personal opinion is we ought to do something with them, but we're still kind of in that discussion, as to what that really means. So, from an editor perspective, again, you guys aren't doing it, but you have the ability, to put the verbiage, all the same settings, all the applications for that particular Patriot are there, so you can check off one or more as appropriate. Associated files and upload it. So, again, it's pretty simple stuff. I didn't realize it's not stuff that you guys are controlling. You can have multiple flags. So this is sort of a mock-up of the design, but here you've got two different flags set to the same Patriot, and you could actually have different flags and even more than one flag on an application. So it's very flexible in that way, and it has the ability, where you can flag here, but not have it show up here, or vice versa. So there's, a lot of stuff kind of happening in the background there. Again, if you have multiple applications, now you got more of them checked. Kind of moving forward. If you have a member flagged, and we do have a legitimate flag in the system, when you look at that member, you're going to see this notation there. So hey, that one's been flagged. No other changes, from a member view, and from a search view, you're going to pick up this extra little indicator here that there's something on the Patriot record itself. If the application's flagged and not the Patriot, you're not going to see that. So it's just whether the application, or the Patriot itself has been flagged. So that's kind of the highlights of the flagging. That's been kind of a lot that's going on that side. That's taken several months of kind of back and forth between, the PRS group and the genealogy staff and the genealogy general and the genealogy committee, and, tried to work out, kind of what they wanted to see. A couple other things I'll hijack quickly, but I'll try to keep it short because since I'm hijacking Gary's meeting. As Gary noted, you guys saw all the 71 to 85 records are there. All of them are there. Please understand, they may not be perfect. I had to go through more than 97,000 image files to build more than 28,000 PDF files. And then I go through and index every single one of them with member numbers and state societies so that you guys have them show up in your dashboards and, can do all the great indexing that you do. So it is very possible that a file could be incomplete. It's very possible that I typo something, so, I know it's annoying when you find them, but, please understand that, in that volume of data, I'm only human. There are some, I'll tell you, I know there's a few that don't have all the pages, we'll work through it. I know there's at least 2 or 3 that the second page is there, but not the first page, meaning you don't see the member numbers and stuff. But I know what the member numbers are because I pulled them from sequence. So I put the member numbers in there, even though you can't see it. The member name, of course, is on generation 1 of the lineage. So you can kind of extrapolate and go from it. But just be aware, you're going to see a few weird things like that. But and we'll work to fix it and so forth. But just be aware, that's the kind of volume that we're talking about. But that section is done. I've been, looking at what Jesse Hagan gives us from the headquarters and genealogy staff to make sure that we mapped up exactly member number to member number going forward. So, we're good there. Just some other tidbits of things that are happening in the background that, since I don't, talk to you guys very often. There's a lot of stuff about data access and data, that's happening. I spend a lot of time with Mike Scroggins and the IT team at headquarters looking at the next generation databases and what we're doing there. Some of that includes, I have access to those databases, so I'm trying to work to leverage all those databases so that we have direct access to data, versus what I do right now for the membership data is I go ask Mike for a manual export every month. So that's where when you see the update histories, you say, hey, I got a new data export. Mike had to go manually do that for us. So I try to be kind and only come to him once a month or so and ask for that. In the new system, we'll be able to pull that programmatically and get Mike out of the picture and save him a couple minutes, and save a lot of time. And we'll have faster refreshes on membership data. We're trying to figure out ways to improve record copy access. I know there's about 1,000 now that we're behind. Every time they give us some, we catch up, and then immediately we're behind again because that's of course a never-ending story. There's a lot of discussion around data integrity now that more and more data is in the system. It's important to make sure that data is good. Whether it's DAR, links to the DAR, find a grave, other information about the Patriots, those sorts of things. And Jamie spearheads and Ray spearhead a lot of that, effort in terms of data cleanup and duplicates, and I'll let them talk about that. I know there's record copies that don't have lineage data, either unreadable or just not there, and they're showing up in people's dashboards. And I know people want to get to 100%, quote unquote, and say they're done. I'm looking at things to be able to mark off some of those to kind of make them pop out of the dashboards without deleting the entries themselves. So things like that are coming. We're also looking at other ways to visualize and view data and make data useful. What do we do to, as kind of the next thing as a research tool, both, to help you guys as volunteers entering data, but also to the membership and prospective membership. If you have ideas, share them. Always send me an email, drop me a note. I'm happy to, to look at ideas. Won't promise we'll do them all, but definitely, interested in doing it. Another thing that's happening in the background, digitization of applications supporting data has started, at headquarters. So that's underway. That's a long-term project. It's going to take them a long time to get that going, but I'm already working with Mike there and Peg, who's doing all the scanning, and to see about getting some samples of what they scanned and how can we integrate that into the PRS as a research tool, not only as a research tool, but predominantly for the genealogy staff so that they can have access to supporting documents so we can move a lot of stuff out of the vaults that are overflowing at headquarters. So just a few things, I'll stop there and let Gary have kind of the show back, but just wanted to at least have a chance to share a few things that are kind of going on in the background. But I would encourage you, if you have ideas to improve things, other things that we can share them. That's it for me. Yeah.
You're muted, Gary.
Okay, thank you, Eric. I appreciate it. We had a couple questions that came up concerning flagging of DAR, putting flags or recognizing flags from the DAR. And the answer is yes, try to find a way to annotate that there is a flag on the DAR, put it in for the Patriot only. We don't want to recognize flags for their applications, they're their applications. But if you see a Patriot that has been flagged by the DAR, just make a note that says DAR states that you have to, future applicants have to approve appropriate service. Some way of letting our people know that there's a flag out there. I think our genealogy staff does use that information so that they will have to, we will have to be smart in what they're doing. I'm not sure if I can get this thing going back where I want to or not.
Gary, do it from current slide.
Second from the left, yeah. There you go.
Okay. I'll catch up here a second. Okay, Eric, did you have a flow for the 1889 and 1970 applications? Have you put that anywhere in your box of things to do?
Oh, it's definitely in the box of things to do. I think in my mind, and it's something I think that the committee needs to discuss as to where do you prioritize that work effort versus a lot of the other things that we want to get done.
Okay.
There's, in one sense, all records are valuable. It's nice to have the history of everything from the society. And I'm not diminishing that by any means. At the same point, everything from 70 backwards is at least available somewhere, i.e. ancestry. So where I was really, motivated to do, that 70 to 84, 85 timeframe, because those were sort of a black box and nobody knew what was in them. At least now every record sees the light of day somewhere. But I think it's more a matter of prioritizing where we want to go. I know Mike has made more of the films available, digitally. There's some things that are harder about these. These are not single image per page. These are multiple pages in an image. So there's a little more dissection kind of work that has to be done, but there's some indexing to perhaps leverage as well. So, there's some trade-offs there. If we,
Okay.
assuming we do it, I'd probably try to start at the most recent ones and go backwards, given that we're finding the really old ones to be challenging to do anything with.
I have a question for you, Eric. Where are we on the descendant search function updating?
That one is in dire need of updating and has been in dire need of updates for a long time. Given the work between the flagging and the work between trying to get all these images digitized and made available, haven't really touched it, quite frankly. But it's on the list, for sure.
We're going to keep you off the streets, Eric.
It's admittedly probably one of the weakest areas on the website, in my opinion.
And I've got one more question. The concern about whether or not we're adding DR flags, I think I answered an email once that said, don't put flags for applications, but we do want to have identify a Patriot that might be flagged by the DAR, just putting a note that the DAR flags that don't, it's not our flag, it's a DAR flag. The only flag we have is the one that you just saw today from Eric. The SAR has not flagged anything at this point other than that one record and that one application.
Yeah, the guidance I've been given to folks is it's the service ones we care about. And for those that have seen the inputs, you see it in bold red. It goes at the top of the service description, and it usually says proof of service required. And then it would be nice if you'd put the language where the DAR GRS gives you that language about why they say that. In other words, there were multiple people, no service was found, those kind of things. So at least give the person a hint of what that flag was about. But the ones that say lineage, mother, father, those kind of things, in general, we don't want those, I believe.
Okay. Okay, Jamie, you got it.
Okay, guys, put your seatbelts on. This is going to be quick and fast. Well, I don't know about quick, but it's going to be fast. Stop the other sharing. Yes.
Now you
Okay.
can go.
So what I'm going to do, looking at the slide is, I'm the guy who does most of the publishing for Patriot Records, so that's the focus of this. I've done coming up on 70,000 of them now, so I think I have a pretty good feel for what's in the PRS and kind of the standards that we'd like to use. We're trying to make it look all consistent throughout. So that's what I'm going to step you through. What I'm going to do is take you through 6 sort of representative Patriot records, and I'll show you what I do, and I'll talk to you about the changes I make and why I make them, and those are the standards we're looking for. And in doing that, I'm going to talk about 2 things that have become what I would say is pretty problematic these days, and that is you guys seem to be having a hard time finding records, especially in Find a Grave. So I'm going to step you through some suggestions of how you might search better in Find a Grave. I'm going to give you some tips and tricks, and hopefully it'll be helpful. Because what I'm finding is I go through, it says could not find, and I do a quick search and there's the record. So hopefully you'll learn something from that. And I offer that after we get out of the formal meeting, if you want to stick around, I'd be happy to do one-on-one with people. At that point, we can do a little more deep diving, digging down in, if that would be helpful to folks. That's there. So let me get going on it. Of course, I've got to move this so I can see. Okay, so I said I'm just going to step through some records. So as I look at this one and I come down, now I know some of you, and this can be confusing. Slashes, do we put spaces or not put spaces? The ROE on this is if it's a searchable record, no space. You can blame Eric for that. In other words, the search feature will not work properly if we have spaces in there, or you may not like the results you get of the search feature. So where you have 2 last names, no spaces. First name, no spaces, please. This was obviously the date copied directly out of DAR. So again, just for look and consistency, not all caps, please, there. Now, dates, places here are not searchable, so we want spaces. And this is just for look and feel, that it's much easier to read this. And I hope this is what you're doing on your lineages. Back when I was doing lineages, this was kind of my ROE. Again, just to make it readable. When you don't put the spaces in, it is much harder to see. Here we do all littles, and I'm going to suggest to you that in things for dates, we only want things that modify the date: before, after, about, ABT, baptism, BPT, those kind of things. So we don't want will, we don't want WP, we don't want TS for tombstone. In other words, I don't care where it came from a date perspective for what we're doing here. Spouses are supposed to be first name, last name, so Elizabeth doesn't work. My standard is -- semicolon. Obviously, the GRS gives you XX, X or XX, either's fine, just designating that that's a first name. Children are all separated by semicolon, and because you can have multiple names for children, just standard wise, I've always put a semicolon space after the last child. And please, no last names. No last names expected, no last names required. And I see a lot of females where I assume someone's pulling them off applications and taking the child's name. Please don't. So just first names there. Qualifying service is not searchable. Space is fine, but in this case, these are both ranks. So just the highest rank, so sergeant. What's expected in this field then is rank spelled out. So PVT, please no. Patriotic service, civil service, and signer Declaration of Independence would be the major things. Now there's a few other, you'll see naval officer to designate that it was sea service, those kind of things, that's all fine. But in general, rank spelled out, military rank spelled out. So you don't need a rank in soldier. It's repetitive, okay? Here we're just looking instead of New York, which is fine, service is New York, but just NY. For DAR numbers, please click the green button. And what you're finding is that says that's unique. So if you're entering one and you put in the DAR number and click it and it comes up red, that should be a red flag. Please stop at that point. Then you can take that. And for those that don't know what you do with it, if you go out to the search, and I don't have one up here, so out to the search, and for those that haven't looked down here, you see where it says DAR number? So if you put it in, it'll take you to that Patriot's record, and then you could compare the one, in other words, this would be the one, the other one, if you will. Just compare the two and say, you know, why am I duplicating it? It may be a duplicate record. And if you find a duplicate record, you take the two P numbers and send that off to Ray Lazaro, please. And Ray will be the one to rectify that for you. Okay, back to the record. So here, you're going to find, and most of them are gone now. I've gone in the back end code wise and gotten rid of it. But back before we started enforcing the text box construct here, you had a lot of other stuff in there potentially. You could have different fonts, different sizes, that kind of thing. The way you know whether there's any of that in there is you click the source button. When you click it, you now see what's generating what you look at, the HTML code, if you will. So in this case, there is no formatting here, but you see an additional line. Okay. So easy to get rid of. I just drag down. Oh, come on, where'd you go? There we go. And now when I go back and look, it'll be gone. You didn't click down into it. Okay, now numbering, again, this is something I'm seeing consistently still today. We ask you, please, one line you don't number. Okay, we only have one thing. There's no reason to number it. There's just one. When you have multiple lines, like if we took this and had 2 lines like that, we ask that you number them, but you use the auto numbering. That's what these 2 are for. This is numbers. This is bullets. Okay, Jamie, so which do I use for which? The standard today is for service description and sources, you use numbers because those are things you would sort of expect to see numbered wise. The other 3 text boxes, you use bullets. So appreciate you looking at that. And I will see some more of these as we get down, you know, where people copy, especially out of the DAR. So again, this should not be numbered. I'll take it back out. You're looking at the cemetery record. Now, you as a checker going in for the first time might want to go look at it. But in this case, what I did is I clicked the Get Cemetery Info button and it says found. And then you're going to see it will populate whatever is in the PRS cemetery record here. Okay. So that says it's linked. This tells you here that it's linked. You want it linked. So you need to click that button to get it linked, kind of like Patriot Records on the lineages. And now you see bullets here. So these are bullets. And I don't know if I have one to bulleting. So some of you have a hard time with this, and it's not necessarily intuitive. If you get one, like you're doing this where you have numbers, or you do the same thing where you have numbers versus these, well, I guess I can just take the whole thing out. So let me do this and I'll show you what you do. So you have this whole list, okay? You bullet it, you go, well, they're all there, what do I do? Well, you indent. That's what these little guys are for. You indent, okay? And if this was numbers, like if this was a number, when you indented, come on, well, we got to go out to end. Okay, it's a number now. So how do I get it to bullets? I click it over, and now I click the bullet one. Okay, so that's how you get the nice no spaces between kind of numbering. Hope that made sense. I know I went through it quickly. Well, come on. As always, when you do live demos here, what possibly could go wrong, right? Okay, there we go. We're back. Of course, that's screwed up. I'm just going to run with it at this point because I'm not doing anything with them. So directions. Directions field could be, if you have directions to the cemetery, that's fine, put them in there. The other thing is when you have GPS, and let me foot stomp this here. I think I have one in my demo. Please, 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 can I say it enough times? Do not put the cemetery GPS in here, okay? It says grave GPS. And you go, Jamie, what's the big deal? Why do we really care? Okay, well, let me show you why we care. For those that haven't been out here, why we care is because you can download for a county a Google Earth capability that gives you all the burials in the county. And for those that haven't seen this, this is a pretty slick capability. Thank you, Eric. I mean, this is a wonderful thing. This is absolutely. Now, I know this cemetery is well populated because I did it. This is the Wilkes Street complex in Alexandria. And so what this gives you is, you see, you can actually see the individual gravestones. And this will show you in Google Earth every burial in that cemetery. That's why we want this, the grave GPS, please, because if you put the cemetery in here, wherever the marker is for the cemetery, you'll have them all just grouped there. You know, it means nothing from this capability. This is Google Earth Pro. You can put this on your you can put it on your phone. You know, it's kind of hard to see, but if you have a tablet, you know, it's great then to walk the cemetery and it's easy to go find things. Okay, so please, 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 that's why we want grave GPS there. Please. Can I say it enough times? Please, please, please. Okay, where the heck was I? I was somewhere. There we go. Okay, so we played. Okay, so here's another format. Now, if you look at this, can you see how this looks a little weird? And maybe you can't see it clearly enough. But you know, if you could get close enough to it, you can see that there's something wrong. These two texts look different, don't they? So if I click on source, I go, this is what I was talking about earlier. See, you've got some formatting in here, okay? And you could go edit it right here, but that'd be a pain in the butt. So again, thank you, Eric. If you highlight it, you cut it, you paste it, magically, all that formatting is now gone. Poof, you don't see it anymore, okay? So Control A highlights it, Control X cuts it, Control V pastes it, and then all you got to do is one more Control A and click your numbering button. And then you can see you've got, oh, come on, you silly thing. Okay, now it's all nice and clean and numbered. That's what we're looking for. Again, I know I'm going fast. I see some people that actually embed the image of the gravestone here. Please don't do that, okay? Either get permission for the actual image and send it. I've been the one uploading most of those. Send it to me or include it on a graves form, you know, whatever you choose to do, and we'll attach it. Please don't do this. Those, when I see them, go away, okay? I'll submit it just to get it out of the way. Please don't publish these, anyone. If anyone's out there publishing, please don't do that. On to the next one. Okay, so this one, we look at it, dates look good. Now, places are city, space, slash, space, county, space, slash, state. Obviously for foreign, you could say there's 4. We just generically do 3. Now, if you have the city and their version of the county and their version of the state and then the country, okay, you can put in 4, but you don't need to put in blank slashes, please. Dates are day, month, year, year. So again, just format wise, 04 rather than 4, please. I just, for consistently, put a space prior to the dash there to say it was a city. There's nothing there, space, slash, space. Again, this would be a spouse, okay? So same thing, child's good. And what's wrong with that one? It's not spelled out, right?
Want it spelled out, really?
Yes, really. We really want them spelled out, please. Okay, this was copied directly from DAR GRS. Someone did not edit the numbers, and in fact, this all goes together. It's one thought. Okay, so do that, back, delete. There you go. That's what I'd expect to see there. Here we have one where someone's put in basic information about it to include the cemetery name, but could not find the Patriot. So this is kind of what I was talking about. This is where I'll veer off into seeing if I can't help you a little bit, give you some tips and tricks here. Okay, here we go. So find a grave. Now let me get rid of this guy again. Okay, so what were we looking at? We were looking at Andrew Staunch. And we were looking at what year? I should have paid attention, 1839. Okay, so generically, you'd say, well, here I'm going to go look like this. Magically, you don't find anything. I think a lot of you give up at that point. Boy, you got a lot of search capability you haven't tried yet. So one of the things you for sure want to do is give yourself some variance on it. Okay, in this case, 10 years usually seems to be a pretty good swatch. And down here it says what? Stanley, North Carolina. So, still not finding it. Okay, so one more thing you want to consider for those that don't know about is this similar name spelling will sometimes find you what you're looking for. Nope. Okay, so what we're going to do now is we're going to bring up cemeteries because someone gave us a hint on a cemetery name, right? It said Fur. And we're going to say, we got to be able to spell Stanley, North Carolina. Let's see what we find. Well, in Albemarle, there are 3 of them. So what I would do is open them up. In other words, we're going to go look at what's in here. So for this one, it says there's 3 Patriots. You know, it's nominally I'd put first initial of the first name, last name, and tribe, but in this case there's 3, so I'm just going to punch it and see. And darn, look at that. And the reason why it didn't find Andrew is because in here it has it as Andreas, right? And Staunch, it's Stott. Anyway, different spellings, but that's our Patriot right there. So back to this one real quick. Again, just a tip of something I do. I never put in full names. I'll do 2 or 3. Okay. Like in this case, if I do this, magically, look what we're going to find. There he is. Okay. So don't put in full names a lot of the time. Just a thought for you. Okay. In the interest of moving along, I'm not actually going to do that one. And again, here you see some weirdness. So these are just lots of extra spaces here. Why they're there, I couldn't possibly tell you. Just look at them. I always do the Control A, X, V, A, and now I'm going to number it. And if you look at it, now it all looks normal. Looks normal as you're looking at it, looks normal code-wise. And okay, I see this one fairly regularly. Someone looked at the DAR and said they spelled the last name S-T-O-W. So since we believe in DAR, we're going to come back up here, and this is what I'd expect to see. Okay, you put the reason why the STOW is there. It wasn't in the record copy, but the DAR does it that way. So just from a find research perspective, we put a slash the last name that way. The other thing I'll use at times to do that is if you can see a contemporary to the period gravestone with the name spelled on it, that would be something to pull up into the last name as well. Again, I know I'm going way, way fast here, and I apologize, but we got to try and get through this. Okie dokie. So this one, let's see what we're going to find. Here we've got the 3 different last names, James. Okay. I said about other things, TS, and I know you find those on record copies, and you're probably going to put them in the lineages. Please don't put them here. Okay. Don't want them, don't need them for what we're trying to do here. And I don't care about the source. Now, if you have a second spouse, something's implied there, right? So at least from a consistency perspective, saying, well, we don't know who the first spouse is, but let's put her in. Okay. And I mentioned last names for children. This is what we don't want to see. Okay. Don't want Smith there and don't want Matthias there. So that's the way I'd expect to see it. Service description. Someone copied this directly out of the DAR GRS. Service description, really don't need to say it's service description again, please. Okay. And that would be a space we'd get rid of. We could look, again, just generically, I just do that out of sheer doing it. I always punch this one to see what comes up. Looks good. No GPS, that's fine. And here again, we have what? Service source. Well, it's in sources, so you're supposed to be putting sources for the service. You don't need to tell people that's what you just did. We're getting there. Okie dokie. So we've got Caleb Gilbert, Cynthia. I would expect semicolon. Okay, here we go. PS. PS is patriotic service. So that's kind of what's expected there. Got a space. We'll look at it. Oh, see, there we go again. Here's one with extra garbage in it. And the way we get rid of the garbage is highlight, cut, paste, and magically garbage is gone. Thank you, Eric. This one. Okay, so someone did the search. Thank you for doing Find a Grave. What they forgot to do was put something in cemetery name. We always want something there, please. Either the cemetery name that comes out of because it's linked, we know what it is, or unknown. I do all caps. It really doesn't matter. That's just what I do. I want it to stand out. But we want we checked Find a Grave. We didn't. This one says it's current January of 2022, so I don't need to do it again, except for what I said. I know this one's not findable, so we'll leave it that way. Okay. This one, we're kind of looking for one thought per line, please. This obviously has two. In other words, you've got a reference here, and then you've got the generic. So I'll get rid of the spaces, semicolon, hit enter, you're done at that point. Okay, so we don't need line formatting, don't need periods, don't need semicolons, don't need any of that, please. The numbers take care of it for you. That one's good to go. I think I got one in here with GPS in it, I think. Let's see. So Jacob Schneider. Now these, just FYI for you, when you see a lot of these, that could be Peter. It could be a lot of different things. So when you're searching for these, you want to consider that, and you may not want to even put a first name in, just FYI. For these, the standard is like that, okay? You don't need the 17 in front of the 30. It's sort of implied. We got the Germany, we got that. Now here, you don't need to say it's a first spouse. Again, it's implied if there's no other spouses and no numbering. So I just get rid of the one. Okay, this one. Now this is one, private soldier patriotic service. Really don't need the soldier, and we don't use commas here. We use space / space. We have a DAR. We're going to push the button. That's good. Now, again, you notice that looks a little different. If we do it, that's because it's strong. These are holdover formattings. So what I'm going to do is, well, I'm going to get rid of all the spaces first. That's what I'm going to do. And then, and magically it's gone. Okay. Except you see this? That's code, that's HTML code for a space. So when you see that, you come back over here and go, oh, there's a space. Again, not a big deal, just consistency. So we have an unknown, we have a not found. Now, I'm not going to do it here, but probably once a year-ish, you should check. Now, you don't need to then add on to that February of 2022, just replace it. Because all we're looking for is some indication of when it was last looked for, please. Here's just a weird formatting again. Why it's that way, I don't have a clue. Oh, this is a good one. I know what else we'll do with this one. So this is where I'll show you the rest of that. So you can see what you have here is Pennsylvania Archives, 5th series, 3rd series. So the standard is one thing per line. So I'm going to take this out. I'm going to start numbering it. I'm going to come down this way. Now, put it in. It's still a number. We push the bullet. Magic. Paste. There you go. So Pennsylvania Archives, a lot of time I just spell out archives, but 3rd series, volume 17, 5th series. Okay. Hopefully that'll help you. That one's good to go. We got one more. I know, Gary, I'm running long. Let's see here. Okay. Yeah, we don't put in county, please. Okay. So this is going to be space, slash, space. Get rid of county, comma, put it in the slash. Okay. So Burke County, North Carolina is done that way. Robert gets the semicolon. We've got captain. Again, this is one of those weird formatting ones. I just cut, paste. Check. Okay, it's linked. That's all good. And now you see GPS here. Okay, so what you do is you copy the IDs, and I guess I hadn't gone through any of that. Let me I have any of the cemeteries up? Let's see. I don't. Okay, cemetery. So what you do is go out to the cemetery and take a look. You know, how do I know the cemetery number? Some of you seem to have a problem with that because you don't put it in. You put the name and do all that. It's either up here in the URL line or all the way on the bottom of the page down here is where you find that number you paste in. Okay, just FYI. But we came here to look at the GPS. So I'm going to take these coordinates and bring them back over. And where they go then is, so I put in cemetery and paste that in. So we have them. And now I'm going to compare this and go 6285.7, 6286. Huh, suspect. They went to 4 digits and rounded. Let's do the second. 8821.98. Yeah, okay. Someone just took the cemetery, so we take them out, please. Okay. And if those are actually grave GPS, I would ask that you find the cemetery because you checked them to make sure, and then put it down here in directions to gravesite, because that's going to allow the next person to look at it to go, oh, someone already checked this. I don't have to check it again. Okay. So directions to grave sites where we put those. And what someone did here is they just literally pasted this out of the DAR GRS, and they do weird formatting. So it goes that way. I just ask that you put it back up on the line, please. If you don't have a DAR GRS hit, the standard is down here in additional information, you will put something like no DAR record found, no DAR GRS record found, February 2022, that kind of thing. Okay, I think I'm tired of talking now, and I talked way too long. I apologize, but hopefully that was helpful. Hopefully I didn't put you to sleep. And I said, I'll stick around afterwards. So if you have questions, I mean, or do you want more, or you have your specifics or whatever, happy to spend however much time, guys, you'd like to help you with that. Because I said, I know that came at you hot and fast. Stop sharing. Okay, Gary, back over to you.
Gary, you're muted.
Thank you, Jamie. That was a good review. I'm going to try to get back here to share my screen. Okay, these are the statistics we have on our Patriot Biographies. The thing to realize is that we've submitted 10,000 records, Patriot Biographies, since 15 January 2018, 239 since last March. These are our primary districts. Georgia, we had a bunch of Patriot Biographies that the Georgia Society had in the background. Maryland had the Maryland 400 that we added in. And then you can see some other societies have really been going after it. Ohio's been diligent about getting in our Patriot Biographies. So Michael, you're up, and if you want to give us some feedback on Patriot Biographies, appreciate it now.
Okay, certainly. Thanks, Gary. I've noticed, especially in the past, I don't know, 4 or 5 weeks, that we are getting an uptick of biographical submissions through the email, and they are largely newer members, say with national numbers above the 200,000 mark. So from that time period forward, that are submitting first-time bios. And I'd say that their general habits in writing these are overall good, because the most important thing in there, talking about the Patriot service, with maybe one exception, they're all doing that. There is one other thing that I'm noticing about it, though, and that is that weighing what I'm seeing, because I understand I go through every submission and I read it very carefully. I do a lot of checking on a variety of things. I won't bore you with the particulars of that. But where I'm going with this is that I don't think that a lot of our newer submissions from people, I don't think they realize that there are actually standards. Because a lot of the things I'm seeing were common issues that we addressed in those that we've established and we've worked out and worked pretty good. And my thought about addressing that is actually a pretty simple one. I know that whenever we have new members admitted to the SAR, and I also know this because I'm a genealogist and registrar, so I get a lot of new people into the SAR. They get that letter. Gary, I think you're right. I think that's a letter that you wrote that they get. They get this letter welcoming you to the society, and please consider submitting a biography. And I was going to ask you, would you consider the idea of maybe just sticking a sentence in there saying, please see the PRS at, and just the link, or however you want to write it, for the Patriot Biography submission standards, or something to that effect. I think it would be a very, very easy, short thing, just a sentence to stick in there to just say, hey, heads up, there's standards, please do this. Other than that, I mean, what I'm getting, like I said, the quality is improving. I think that would probably save me a good bit of time if people know that there actually are standards, because then I'm not spending 2 and 3 hours fixing these things before publishing them. Other than that, I mean, like I said, we're getting more in, and that's a good thing. And you notice that our percentage of Patriots that have bios is slowly creeping up from that.
Okay. Thank you, Michael. Jeff Baggett, are you on by any chance? Jeff is working in a COVID-rich environment in Kentucky in the hospital arena. So he's got a full-time job working that. Just to give you some background, these are the numbers for the number of Patriot grave marking medals that have been earned, and 374 people have actually achieved this medal. Significant this half term is that we have CAR members, recipients, and they're all female. Most of the CAR males are also junior members in the SAR, so they're eligible for the medal already. And we added 3 more Patriot grave marking medals in this last year, so we're moving in that direction. This is the time that I think is going to be Jamie time. I'm going to try to look at the chat and see. I think Eric has been trying to answer most of the questions as we've gone through, but we'll see if we have any more here to work on.
The last 2 are for you. One is about the availability of this online and about the medal and the qualifications.
Okay, I'm going to try to record this and turn it into a YouTube so that you can show it to yourself later on or to your chapters. It takes 15 grave markings to earn each medal. So you'd have to have separate grave markings. And our criterion is also that they have to be added to the PRS. So if you are doing a grave marking and you don't see it added in as a date on that the SAR marked it, you're not going to get credit for that particular grave marking. And it's taken a while to get to that, but that is our standard right now. It has to be in the PRS as a date that the SAR marked the grave. And then when Jeff looks at it, he can look in the PRS and see that it's there. But that's largely due to the fact that you guys have been doing a great job updating the PRS. How does the SAR cemetery field get to? Okay, I'm not sure what that is, Gary. There is a place where you can add, and I add it when or Jeff adds it when we get a grave marking form, Patriot grave and biography. If it says the date that's marked, I put the date in there and say that it's SAR marked. There are many that are DAR marked without any SAR. We'll put that DAR as saying it's there. There's a marker there someplace. We have any other questions on grave markings? That was good point. Yes, if the DAR is marked, that does not preclude you from having an SAR marking. So if the DAR marked it many years ago and you don't see an SAR marker, you may go mark it as the SAR marking. You add if the cemetery is not in the PRS, how do we add that? We use the Patriot Graves and Biography report form as a source for when we put that stuff in. So if you've marked a grave, we need that report. It needs to be sent to Patriot Graves, and then we'll add it into the PRS.
Hey, Gary, if I could just tap onto that. So if you as a volunteer are looking and you don't find the cemetery you're looking for in the PRS, you just put it in and put the numbers in there, have the name in there, and you submit it for publication, and then the publishers will add that cemetery in as required. Okay, so it gets added in via a different set of fields, gets put in generically. And the follow-on question would be, does it have to be in Find a Grave to get added in? And the answer is no. We'd like to, and most of the cemeteries are in Find a Grave, but we do have cemeteries in the PRS that are not in Find a Grave. And again, that's fine too. We just need the information about the cemetery.
Okay, we've got one question. What requirements have to be met to receive a Lafayette Medal? And that's for all volunteers in the PRS. You have to achieve 40 hours of activity to get credit for the Lafayette Medal. To achieve that, you can do it with a combination of entries into the Patriot record or updates of the lineage. If you're updating lineages, it takes 80 lineages updated to earn the medal, half an hour per lineage. If you're just doing Patriot record updates, you get 15 minutes credit for every Patriot record you update. So if you do the Patriot and the lineage, you update both, you're going to get 45 minutes of credit for that particular application. So it depends on what you're doing and how you're doing it, but everything has to be completed by the 30th of September. I pull a report from the PRS that says what's happened at that point, and then I recommend the medals to the SAR staff. Colleen Wilson is primarily in charge of it at the SAR. She's working all volunteers for all parts of the SAR, and the PRS is just one portion of it. It's not the PRS medal, but it's become that just by happenstance. Okay, there any other questions on chat that are coming out that we didn't answer? Okay, does the grave marking have a formal ceremony? Yes, there is a formal ceremony. There's a grave marking manual that has been prepared. It gives you samples of the ceremony, but if you have in your mind that it's basically a funeral for a fella that's passed away over 250 years ago or 200 years ago, and that's what you're trying to do. Full size, yeah, the Lafayette medal is full size when it comes to you. I think you have to purchase the miniature medal. Okay, if the burial information is unknown on a find a grave, all you can do is say it's not known. You can identify that there's a find a grave memorial, but you just have to say that the location of the burial is unknown. And there's no purchase of the Lafayette Volunteer Service Medal. You have to earn it, and it has to be distributed by the SAR staff.
Just a quick chime in, Gary, for Jamie and Eric and yourself and others. Thank y'all for all the work y'all do in helping us get things into the system.
You're welcome. The best reward that I get is just looking at how many and how frequent folks are putting data into the Patriot Research System. And hopefully you're getting that feeling as well when you see it across the country and you can go say, oh my, this is working. Because as a registrar, I can see being able to have access to this and saying, okay, I've got to go find something to help me get this guy into the SAR, and the Patriot Research System is going to do that down the road. Okay, if you find it, there's one question. I have some cemeteries that are the same cemetery but listed in the PRS under different names and numbers. I would say send that difficulty or send your corrections as an email to me or to Jamie, and we can start working it. We've got a lot of data that we're trying to correct in the PRS, and that would be one of them that'd be nice to fix. The bio-content standards are listed on the third page of the Patriot Graves and Biography form. I think they're on the PRS as well. Eric, didn't we put the requirements?
Yeah, they're in the PRS. Go to the Patriot, go to the biography tab, and where it talks about adding a biography, they should be there.
Okay. Okay, are there any more questions for Jamie?
Or as I offered, I'm happy to stick around after we, terminate the formal meeting here. And,
Okay.
and answer, more specific questions if that's helpful.
Okay. Is there anybody from the Patriot Records Committee that has inputs, requests, or comments that they would like to get across to all our volunteers? Make sure you unmute yourself to do that.
Now, just thanks for all the hard work. I mean, obviously I've spent time writing code and digitizing stuff, but it's all the work that the volunteers do about, getting all the stuff indexed and available that really makes it worthwhile. A system with no data is kind of worthless. So I appreciate all the help, from that perspective. And as we talked about, when Gary was talking about the numbers having gone down under 50%, even in that 71 to 85 range, they're back over 52%, almost 53. So in a matter of days, they've already knocked out another 5%, overall. So.
And let me echo what Eric is saying. When I go to leadership, I get to be the focal point of people saying, it is unbelievable how much is getting done in the PRS. The leadership has no idea how much. They know what you're doing. They don't know how it's getting done. They just cannot fathom how many volunteer hours are being put in. Mike Scroggins can believe it because he's having to prepare the Lafayette medals, but the general officers have no idea how much effort you're putting in. I try to pass it on, but you guys are doing great. Okay, I'm going to call this at the end of the meeting. It's 7:15 Eastern time, and I'm going to allow Jamie to take control and answer any questions. If you choose to stay on and listen, that'd be great. If you choose to break off and say we're done, it's time for supper, I understand that. And Jamie, I'll turn it over to you and see if we've got anybody who wants to unmute and just talk to you one-on-one.
Yeah, for Jim Engler, just in his comment, yeah, I have no issue you guys sharing that to the GRS committee. Everybody else has already seen it anyway, so have at it.
Jamie, this is Curtis Miller. I'm going to hang on for a minute or two, if that's okay.
Fine, absolutely.